Stop. Before you say a single word to her, there is one mistake happening inside your brain right now that is quietly killing every conversation before it even begins. And no, it is not what you think it is. It is not nervousness. It is not your looks. It is not your opener. It is something much deeper. Something that happens in the first 3 seconds of interaction. And most men have no idea it is even occurring. I am going to show you exactly what it is. But first, I need to tell you about a phrase. A single phrase that caused a woman to text someone she had met only once, 3 days later, just to continue a conversation. That phrase is coming. But to understand why it works, you need to understand something about the brain first. Stay with me. Here is what most men do wrong, and they never realize it. They walk into a conversation trying to be impressive instead of trying to create a feeling. And that one difference between performing and creating is the entire gap between forgettable and magnetic. I have studied hundreds of real conversations, watched the exact moment energy shifts, and every single time it came down to one thing: emotional atmosphere. Now, I promised you the phrase that made a woman reach out 3 days later. I will give it to you, but I need to build the foundation first, because without the foundation, the phrase means nothing. And trust me, once I explain the full picture, you will understand something about attraction that most men spend years trying to figure out. I'm Emily Carter, and you're watching The Female Game. This is the space where we go beyond surface-level dating advice and actually explore the real psychology behind attraction, emotional connection, and communication. If you are someone who wants to genuinely understand how human connection works, not memorize scripts, you are exactly where you need to be. Subscribe right now, because what we talk about here builds over time, and every video adds a new layer to your understanding. Hit the bell so you never miss one. Now, let's get back to the framework, because I need to open 3 loops for you today. And by the end, all 3 are going to close in a way that changes how you approach every conversation moving forward. Here is what I am going to share with you today. 3 phrases, rooted in psychology, that shift emotional energy inside a conversation without her even noticing why it is happening. Phrase 1 activates curiosity and leaves her thinking about the conversation long after it ends. Phrase 2 creates a compliment so specific and so unexpected that it bypasses every defense she has built against flattery. Phrase 3. This one is my personal favorite. It completely reverses the power dynamic in conversation without you saying anything aggressive or obvious. Now here's the important thing I want you to hold in your mind. These 3 phrases work together, like a rhythm. One creates curiosity, one creates safety, one creates intrigue, and when all 3 appear inside a single conversation, the emotional experience she has becomes almost impossible to forget. We are going to go through all 3, but first, I need you to understand why ordinary conversations die. Because if you do not understand the problem clearly, the solution will not stick. You have experienced this. You meet someone. The conversation starts. Everything feels polite, comfortable enough, but something is missing. The energy stays flat. You are technically speaking, but neither person feels pulled into the exchange. Then, you walk away. And by the time you reach your car, you have already forgotten half of what was said. Now, here is the fascinating part. That exact same conversation, with the exact same words, could have felt completely different. It is not the content that creates connection. It is the emotional architecture underneath the content. I want to show you what that architecture looks like, and the 3 phrases are the building blocks. But before we get to phrase 1, I want to ask you something, and I want you to actually think about this. Have you ever walked away from a conversation and felt that rare feeling where everything just clicked? Where the energy felt natural and easy and the time passed without you noticing? If you have, drop a comment right now and tell me about it. Even 1 sentence, because those experiences reveal something fascinating about the human brain. And your story might actually inspire a future video. Now, phrase 1, the curiosity phrase. Curiosity is one of the most powerful forces inside the human brain. When the mind senses an unfinished idea, it cannot rest until it finds closure. This is biology. It is not a trick. It is how the brain is wired. Here is how you use it. She shares something personal, a story, a hobby, something about who she is. And instead of responding with a comment, you pause and say quietly, "You remind me of someone." Then pause, then add, lightly, almost to yourself, "Actually, never mind." And continue the conversation naturally. No stare, no dramatic pause, no emphasis, just move on. What happens inside her brain in that moment is remarkable. It begins circling. Who did he mean? Why did he stop? What was he going to say? And here is what makes this powerful. You are not manipulating curiosity. You are simply creating space for it to grow. Attraction often lives in the spaces between words, not inside the words themselves. Now, often, later in the conversation, she returns to that moment. She smiles and asks, "Wait, who did I remind you of earlier?" When that moment arrives, and it usually does, you reveal something thoughtful about her personality, not her appearance. You might say, "You reminded me of someone I know who has this quiet way of making everyone around them feel comfortable. When you told that story earlier, it felt similar." That is the moment small talk becomes recognition. And recognition, being seen, is one of the deepest emotional triggers of attraction. Now, I know we are about 5 minutes in, and I want to stop for just a second, because we have only covered phrase 1. And phrase 2, the hidden compliment, is where things get genuinely surprising. Because most men attempt compliments every day, but almost every one of them backfires. Not because the intention is wrong, but because of one specific mistake in delivery that no one ever explains. I'm going to show you exactly what that mistake is, and how to avoid it permanently. And then after that, phrase 3, the conversation reversal. This is the technique that creates the feeling of magnetic pull, where she starts leaning into the exchange instead of you chasing it. Both of those are coming right now. But if you have not subscribed yet, do it right now before we continue, because what comes next builds directly on what you just heard, and you will want the full picture. Most compliments fail. And the reason is simple: predictability. Attractive women hear the same words in a loop. "You're beautiful. You have amazing eyes. You look incredible." After the 100th time those words blend together, they lose all emotional weight. They become background noise. But a compliment rooted in observation that cuts through instantly. Here is why. Observation requires attention, and attention is one of the rarest and most valued forms of respect one person can show another. When someone notices a detail that most people miss, the brain automatically flags that person as different. So instead of praising appearance, you acknowledge character. You might say, "The way you explained that was really clear and thoughtful." Or, "You have this calm way of making people feel comfortable. I noticed that." What happens inside her emotionally in that moment is very different from the response to a standard compliment. Standard compliment: surprise, then suspicion. What does he want? Observation-based compliment: surprise, then genuine appreciation. He actually paid attention, and that appreciation attaches itself to you emotionally. Now, here is the advanced version, the one that lands even deeper. Imagine you notice something about how she interacts with others. Maybe she pulls quieter people into the conversation. Maybe she listens before speaking. Most people never receive acknowledgement for social awareness. So when you say, "I noticed earlier that you made sure everyone had a chance to speak," not many people actually do that. That lands differently, completely differently, because it does not just compliment her, it reinforces her identity. And identity-based recognition stays in memory far longer than appearance-based praise. One small timing note: deliver it gently, maintain soft eye contact, then continue the conversation without waiting for her reaction. The goal is not applause. The goal is emotional resonance. If this is already shifting how you think about conversation, share this video with someone you think would benefit from it. Genuinely, the people who share this content are the ones who think deeply about human connection, and those are exactly the people this channel is built for. Now, phrase 3, the reversal. Most conversations follow a predictable rhythm: question, answer, next question, next answer. It feels like an interview, mechanical. draining. And after a few minutes, both people are technically present, but emotionally absent. Here is how you break that rhythm, without being dramatic or obvious. When she asks you a personal question, instead of answering immediately, you smile lightly and say, "What do you think?" That is it. But what happens inside the conversation in that moment is extraordinary. Suddenly, she is not just asking questions. She is participating in the creation of the conversation. She begins guessing. She begins observing you more closely. She begins revealing her assumptions about you. And in doing so, she reveals her own values and perceptions. For example, she asks, "What made you choose your career?" Instead of explaining, you respond playfully, "I'm curious. What do you think the reason is?" Now she becomes part of the exchange. She guesses your personality. She shares what she noticed about you so far. And through that guess, she reveals something true about herself. This is one of the most fascinating aspects of conversation psychology. People reveal themselves while trying to understand others. And when that process feels playful instead of formal, attraction appears naturally. One important note: do not overuse this. Balance keeps it charming. Overuse makes it feel evasive. Use it once, maybe twice, and then respond genuinely. Now I want to pull back for a moment, because there is something underneath all three of these phrases that most people miss. And this is the part I saved for the end, because you needed to see the full picture first. These phrases are not techniques in isolation. They are expressions of a deeper principle: emotional leadership. You are not controlling the conversation. You are guiding the energy. Emotional leadership means you stay relaxed while gently inviting engagement. You shape rhythm without forcing direction. And when someone feels that calm guidance, the conversation begins flowing naturally. This is not just a dating principle. It improves friendships. It strengthens professional relationships. It transforms every social environment you enter. Because here is the quiet truth about attraction. The people who create the strongest attraction are rarely the ones trying hardest to create it. They are simply comfortable being themselves while paying careful attention to the other person. And that combination, authentic presence plus genuine attention, is one of the rarest experiences in modern human interaction. So here's what I want you to do this week. Choose just one of these three phrases, only one. Use it naturally in a real conversation. Then, come back here and tell me in the comments what happened. Did the energy shift? Did curiosity appear? Did she ask a follow-up question later? I read every comment, seriously. And the experiences you share here often become the next conversation on this channel. If this video helped you see communication differently, subscribe to The Female Game and hit the bell. Every video here builds on the last, and the deeper you go into this content, the more natural human connection becomes. Like this video, if even one idea landed, it helps more people find this space. And remember this, because I want you to carry it with you. Words shape emotional experience more than status ever will. A man with presence and thoughtful speech creates stronger attraction than almost anything else. Because emotional intelligence leaves an imprint that external markers simply cannot match. Thank you for spending this time with me. And until the next conversation, when presence replaces performance, people feel it immediately. That feeling is what quietly draws them closer.